The Bahrain Grand Prix has been on the Formula One calendar since 2004. It's been an ever-present since then, aside from 2011. So there's plenty of races to pick from when it comes to 5 magnificent, unforgettable moments from the Bahrain International Circuit in Formula One. So here are my 5 picks, guys. 5 picks that you probably won't see on most of the channels because a couple of them are from way back in the day, from the mid-2000s, which is 20 years ago now, and makes me feel very old. But here we are in the mid-2020s. What can you do about it? So the first one I'm going to start with is the fact that 2005 is still, I believe, the hottest Grand Prix ever. I know it was at the time anyway. I've just looked this up. The ambient temperature that day was over 40 degrees Celsius. The track temperature would have been touching 60 degrees Celsius. It was absolutely sweltering. If you look at some of the images from that race as well, I mean, I always remember Juan Pablo Montoya. I'm sure it was during this race where the McLaren mechanic just handed him a bottle of like ice cold water and he just dunked it on himself. And I don't blame him whatsoever during the pit stop. I don't blame him whatsoever on that. I would have done the exact, well, I would have passed out long before that. But if I did somehow make it to the first pit stop, I definitely would have done that. It was absolutely sweltering. This is part of the reason as well why we racing at night now, because Bahrain back in the day used to be a day race in 2013 and before. But despite that, Fernando Alonso, on his way to his first Formula One World Championship, dominated that race and absolutely showed his class. And I'm sure he said in the press conference with a very red face, "It's the hottest race I have ever done, maybe in my life." That was that was Russian. That wasn't Spanish. Anyway, what wasn't terrible was 2006, the second moment I'm going to highlight. Michael Schumacher against Fernando Alonso. We saw plenty of these battles between these two greats, the present in Formula One against the past, the most successful driver in the history of the sport at the time against the young pretender, and it was a fantastic battle between these two in the heat of Bahrain. In the end, Alonso did come out on top against Schumacher, some fantastic defending and attacking from the pair of them. Shout out as well to Kimi Räikkönen, going all the way from last to third by the end of that race. I mean, he was absolutely rapid in that McLaren back in the day. I know he got his title with Ferrari, and of course he deserved it in 2007, but my goodness me, I think his best days were at McLaren in terms of his performances. Just that car was too inconsistent, but on his day, Räikkönen was absolutely unstoppable. The streets will never forget him for sure. But let's skip ahead a bit to the first night race. I think this was Formula One's 900th Grand Prix. That's why it was moved to a night race, something that became a permanent fixture in the Bahrain Grand Prix going forwards. And it really helped. The show was spectacular, not least between the two Mercedes drivers, Sir Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. The two were fighting it out for the championship that year. Of course, Hamilton having his retirement in the opening round in Australia, then bouncing back with a victory in Malaysia. Both of these guys had an absolutely fantastic race. At times, people might say, oh, the elbows were out a little bit too much from Lewis, but honestly, it's massive respect from these guys before the days when they really hated each other towards the end of that season. This was before that. There was real respect between the two of them, and yeah, a real sign of things to come in that season. It was a really great battle between the pair of the Silver Arrows drivers. But let's go to 2021 next. Max Verstappen against Lewis Hamilton, again for the championship. Again, early on in the season, it was something that, you know, very much set the tone of that season. This is before it turned ugly as well at times, you know, before they started crashing into each other and stuff. You know, the real respect between these two. A fantastic battle between, again, a bit like Schumacher and Alonso 15 years prior in 2006. The most successful driver in the history of the sport at the time, still is actually for that matter, and against the guy who is the young pretender, someone trying to get their first world championship. I mean, Alonso was going for his second at that time, but you know what I mean. The comparisons are definitely there, and again, it was a really respectful, really hard fought battle. Do go look it up. F1's put out a compilation on their YouTube channel going over the best battles, the best duels in the desert. I think it's like 25 minutes long. Brilliant watch. Do go watch that if I do say so. But let's talk about 2022 as well. The drama at the end of this race. Unbelievable stuff. So we had Ferrari and Red Bull in this new era of the ground effect cars, very much looking like the two fastest teams on the grid. Leclerc, a bit of a specialist around Bahrain over the years, never managed to win it though, despite coming very close in 2019. Would have done in 2019 if it wasn't for the mechanical failure in the Ferrari. Him and Max Verstappen going for the victory, and it was a really good battle, and it kind of got spoiled in a sense towards the end because unfortunately both Red Bulls dropped out with mechanical issues, Verstappen and Sergio Perez dropping out of the race at the end. So not really positive there for them, but a Ferrari won too, and at that point the Ferrari fans were believing like this could be our year, we could do it here, and it didn't turn out like that, unfortunately. But we also got Sir Lewis on the podium as well. The inevitable happened, Hamilton getting on the podium despite that Mercedes being an absolute dog of a car at the start of 2022. What were they thinking with no side pods? Side pods? We don't need side pods. Side pods are overrated. Side pods are there for a reason, mate. You need it. But yeah, anyway, those are 5 of my favourite moments from throughout the years from the Bahrain Grand Prix. What's yours? Let us know in the comments below. And who do you think is going to win this weekend? Are we going to get a classic moment in Bahrain this year? An all-time classic? I'm hoping so. I'm really hoping and praying so after the absolute snooze fest of Japan last week. It can't be as bad as that in Bahrain. Surely not.